Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
For the 20th time over the course of a Tuesday, Saturday, or Sunday, we wish you folks and say hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome into another live edition of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show. That, of course, folks, is The Night Shift on our 20th episode here on this Sunday night. Wet, cold, and rainy Sunday, November the 8th, 2020, as rain continues to fall here across the great state of California. As usual, folks, joined as always by the fellow late night MI6 Sports Network fellow night owl co-host, our buddy Isaiah Leung from the Garage Studios up there in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Callan McClurg from the home studios here in San Diego. Isaiah, as always, man, we thank you for staying up late and for joining us, man. And of course, welcome to the night shift. How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Great to see you too, Callan. First of all, I don't think I'm even in my garage because, I don't think I'm in my garage. I think I'm trapped in an igloo right now because that's what it feels like here in the Garage Studios here in my house at Fremont, California. I mean, it is so cold right now that I'm wearing two jackets plus a sweatshirt underneath. I got my hoodie on me right now. It's just freezing cold right now. But hey, we're going to power through it. Winter weather has officially arrived here in the Bay Area. I mean, the last couple of months, it's been hot with 80 to 90 degree weather and the sun always out. But today, man, oh my God, today was 47 degrees the entire day. I had to walk around my house with two jackets on, a sweatshirt on, plus the heater on. And then when I went outside, I had to walk around in like four jackets with a sweatshirt. That's how cold it was. I know a lot of people that are tuning in, they're gonna be like, Isaiah, you're a wimp because, it's only 47 degrees. Where I live, it's like 10 degrees, and in 47 degree weather, that's considered summer to us, and we wear shorts. But hey, let me tell you guys this. I've been living in the Bay Area my entire life. I've been living in warm weather paradise my entire life. 47 degree weather here is considered super, super cold. So please don't blame me for, putting all that jacket on and stuff like that. It is freezing here. But, and I'm glad that winter weather has finally arrived. But Callan, today, even though it's been really cold, I made a remarkable discovery today, and that was that the McDonald's now serves a cinnamon roll, apple fritter, and blueberry muffin for the entire day. I tried their cinnamon roll. It was so good with coffee. Perfect for a hot or for a freezing cold day. So it's been a great Sunday. Can't wait to talk some sports with you now. And yeah, let's do this. Woo!
It is cold. I can vouch for Isaiah, though, with me living by the beach my entire life and going to the Bay Area in August and wearing jeans and two jackets and a hat every single day while I was up there. So I can definitely agree with Isaiah's sentiments, though. At the same time, though, folks, as usual, we come your way here or coming your way on this 20th episode of The Night Shift. Again, folks, as a reminder, if you've been perhaps away from your phone all day, have been missing out on all the big plays, big games, and big scores of the day, again, Isaiah and myself try our best to come here and do that with you folks and talk all the things going on in the sports world. Late night every Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, again, to cater to our late night viewers here on the MI6 Sports Network. So again, folks, we'll also take your live input, your questions, comments, or concerns about the sports world throughout the course of our show tonight. We'll do our absolute best to make sure that those comments are, in fact, read live on the air. With that, Isaiah and company, the first game of the day from week 9 of the NFL season kicks off in the morning slate of games with the Broncos facing the Falcons from Mercedes-Benz Stadium down there in ATL, Georgia. It is Atlanta getting by the Denver Broncos 34-27 early on Sunday morning. Of course, Isaiah, not the best day again for Drew Lock and for the Denver Broncos and probably for a game for Atlanta. More so, they're just playing, in my mind, right now for respect and trying to get themselves back on some type of a very good track right now, as we've already talked about plenty of times with the Falcons, not being able to, blow game, not being able to hold leads, and really not a lot of positives to take away from this season for the Falcons. Again, a dismal year, a lot of blown leads, no lead being safe. Maybe some good production, though, still from Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, still working very well as a unit, though. But Isaiah, at least for Atlanta, in a pretty much a lost season for the Falcons, though, getting a win today over Denver. Your thoughts on this ball game as the Falcons knocked off your man crush Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos today?
Well, Callan, let me see this before I dive into the game. That is why, this is what made my McDonald's coffee and cinnamon rolls so much better, because of all the garbage that I had to witness today with the Denver Broncos in the morning slate of games. I was just so disgusted. I slammed the door of my house, left, went to McDonald's, got myself a coffee, got myself a cinnamon roll, and all that pain was soothed because of the meal that I had to eat. But about this game, Callan, first of all, do we really have to get into this? Can we skip this and go to the Seahawks and Bills game, please? Like, I would really appreciate that if we could. But
No.
Callan, I am out. I am out on the Denver Broncos, man. I am here to announce to you and the rest of our audience that I am retracting my AFC West pick that I made before the season. I cannot believe before this season that I had the audacity to pick this team to win the AFC West. I really don't know what I was thinking when I did that. When you heard that, man, you should have immediately called the police and got me drug tested. That pick is looking worse and worse by the minute. Last Sunday, after the Broncos, they pulled off that miraculous win over the Los Angeles Chargers, or the Renters, like my guy Casey King has been calling them. I said that the next 3 games that the Broncos absolutely had to go 3-0 and sweep them if they wanted to make the playoffs, because those games were very, very favorable to the Broncos. They were going to play the lowly Falcons in Atlanta. Then the following week at the Raiders, which I thought, was going to be the toughest of those 3 games, but still winnable games. And then the week after that, they were going to play the Miami Dolphins in Denver, another game that I deemed winnable and favorable to the Denver Broncos. And then they go out there and they stink up the joint and lose to the lowly Falcons today. The game out of this 3-game stretch that they absolutely had to win, and they absolutely should have won, because the Falcons suck. But, the Denver Broncos, they just don't show up in Atlanta. That's really what pisses me off about this Broncos team. It's because you never know what team is going to show up on any given week. One week against a team that they absolutely should lose to, they show up and play a very, very competitive game like they did against the Patriots and shock the world and win. And then the next week they play like crap against the Chargers and in a game that they absolutely should win, or they play crap against the Falcons in a game that they should win, and then they lose. It's just so frustrating, man. The Broncos lost this game because they simply couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. Their defense constantly got killed on 2nd and long and 3rd and long. I mean, they allowed this dude from the Falcons, this wide receiver who I have never, ever heard of in my entire life, named Zacchaeus, on 3rd and 15, get a 50-plus yard touchdown from Matt Ryan. And also on 2nd and 14, he gets a 40-plus yard gainer on 2nd and 14. And then Christian Tate gets a 35-plus yard pass on 2nd and 15. Those big plays absolutely killed the Denver Broncos in this football game. You just can't have that if you want to win in the NFL. And on offense, the Denver Broncos, they just couldn't get anything going in the first half again. That's been the theme of the Broncos offense this entire year. They dig themselves a huge hole in the first half because their offense can't get anything going. And then they have to use all their energy to climb out of it in the second half. And then they end up falling short and faltering and losing. The Denver Broncos season is dead, Callan. It's over, man. If they couldn't beat the lowly Falcons, how do you expect to go into Vegas next week and beat the Raiders or beat the revitalized Miami Dolphins? And then after that, you've got to play the Buffalo Bills and then the Kansas City Chiefs. It's over, man. The Broncos will not win the AFC West this year. They will not make the playoffs this year. As far as I'm concerned, the Broncos AFC West title hopes are dashed. The Broncos playoffs hopes are dashed. It's going to be another 7-9 or 6-10 losing season for the Denver Broncos. I am canceling the Broncos right now, Callan.
Two things here. For one, Isaiah cannot retract that pick because it's already been documented in our MI6 group spreadsheet for all of the predictions that we have for the division winners. And also, secondly, that is the record for the quickest time I've had to put the shades on with Isaiah. 7 minutes is all it took for me to put the shades on episode 20 here of the Night Shift. But in all seriousness, though, Isaiah, valid points, though. But I would also agree, though, man, that for a bit there, it's like, was this Denver playing or the Chicago Bears playing because of how terrible this offense looked once again? But I think, though, as mentioned, that Tyler had a very, very relevant point, though, here. Drew Lock is great, Isaiah, when the other team goes into a prevent defense because they have such a huge lead, pretty much, a.k.a. garbage time, pretty much. But I agree, though, that this is, anyone out there like Isaiah picking anybody but Kansas City to win the AFC West out of their minds across the board. That includes Isaiah. I mean, it's one thing to have faith in your organization, but just to go and pick against Kansas City for no reason like Isaiah did, to me, makes absolutely no sense because you know pretty well that for a while here, this is going to be KC versus the rest of the field for first place in the AFC West division at this rate. With that in mind, Isaiah, we'll go back over to you with more about this ball game. What do you got for us?
Yeah, another point that I wanted to make about this game is even though it was all bad for the Denver Broncos, there was a bright spot, and that is Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, the Broncos' first-round pick out of Alabama, he had his best game of his young career thus far. The guy had 7 catches for 125 yards and even scored his first NFL touchdown. This guy is a beast. He's a great route runner. He's super fast. The Denver Broncos, they need to find a way to get this guy the ball because if they can find a way consistently to get Jerry Jeudy the ball, good things will happen because this guy is just such an explosive playmaker.
Jerry Jeudy for sure could be an impact player, but I think that Casey's onto a great point, though. Isaiah Casey says they need a overhaul, probably in regards to maybe more players on offense, maybe a better defensive mind, perhaps, minus Vic Fangio, but more so a better defensive coordinator. Also, Casey also writes in, a great day for him. Seattle loses, Arizona loses, and the Chargers all lose today. Great day, and can't wait for next weekend's games to watch the Rams face Seattle in a big-time NFC West showdown. James Gonzalez, rocking that top fan badge on Facebook, says that I'm so impressed with that with Matt Ryan. I think he ran for 100 yards for the first time in his entire career today. And, of course, it comes on a field day against one of Isaiah's 20 billion teams he loves and admires so damn much. And also, Casey is asking Isaiah, where in the world did you come up with Denver winning the AFC West before the season started?
Can I plead the fifth?
No.
I was so optimistic because I like Vic Fangio as a head coach, and I've been really pushing for him to get a head coaching job, and he finally did a couple of years, or last year when he landed the Broncos head coaching gig. The Denver Broncos had a great defense. They had Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. They added Bryce Callahan. They added A.J. Boye. And then their offense, they really picked it up as the season went down the wire. Drew Lock came in for those 5 games. They went 4-1. He looked pretty good. And then they added Melvin Gordon. They added Jerry Jeudy, who was one of the best wide receivers in the draft. They added Graham Glasgow, who was one of the top offensive linemen in the draft. So I was very optimistic about Denver, and I also thought that Kansas City, they have a good offense. They have a great offense, actually. but their defense is very suspect. You know, they give up a lot of yards, whether it's on the ground or through the air. And I just thought the Chiefs would have a Super Bowl hangover. But, you know, the Chiefs have been off to a great start, and their defense, you know, they're proving me wrong time and time again this year with their bend, don't break defense.
So there's your answer, Casey, pretty much betting against the field. And also James agrees, though, that Denver's got to get Jerry Jeudy more involved, much like Chicago, hopefully sometime soon getting Cole Kmet, hopefully sometime more involved. But again, folks, it is all about the Falcons beating the Denver Broncos on Sunday from Mercedes-Benz Stadium 34-27 ATL over Denver. With that, Isaiah, probably the marquee game of the morning slate of games, the Seahawks and Bills from Bill Stadium out there in Orchard Park, New York. This game turned into a blowout, and it was pretty much early in this ball game, and it all rests pretty much on the Bills winning this game pretty handily, 44-34. The Bills shocked the Seahawks on the road today, or at least shocked them at home, I should say, as the Seahawks go west to east and falter with their second loss of the season. Isaiah, if anybody out there had perhaps second thoughts or maybe had overlooked the play and the career so far of Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen proved a lot of people wrong in this game today with how he played with all the touchdowns. I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns in this game and really picked apart a very, very dreadfully, painfully bad to watch Seahawk defense in this game today. And as mentioned, pretty much Josh Allen was a knife going through butter today. He was smooth. He looked really good. And as mentioned, did it all today. Throwing the ball, passing the ball. Phenomenal game for Josh Allen. Isaiah, thoughts as the Bills knock off Seattle in probably one of the few upsets on this Sunday in Week 9 of the NFL season?
Well, for me, I didn't think it was an upset because I picked the Bills to win, given the fact that, you know, the Seahawks were traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast, and normally West Coast teams don't fare really good when it comes to, you know, having to travel from west to east and then play at 10 a.m. And also the fact that the Seahawks defense just sucks. They plain and simple, they suck. It just goes to show you how unacceptable and inexcusable Jimmy Garoppolo's performance last week against the Seahawks defense was, when he only put up 7 points on only 87 yards passing. I mean, this Seahawks defense is one of the worst in the NFL. I think Callan could probably throw a couple of touchdowns and even run for a couple of touchdowns on them, because that's how dreadful they are. So I wasn't really surprised that the Bills won. My guy Gabe Jackson, who has a really good point, told me in our phone call today that this is how you beat the Seahawks. You beat the Seahawks by outgunning them. The Seahawks cannot win when the other team has a great offense, because that other team's great offense will be able to score a boatload of points against the Seahawks defense, because the Seahawks defense just can't stop anyone. So I think when it comes down to the postseason, I don't really see Seattle going to the Super Bowl, because I just don't think they can stop anybody. And if you can't stop the New Orleanses of the world, the Tampa Bays of the world, I don't care. If you have Russell Wilson, you're not going to win if you're consistently giving up 40 points a game.
Definitely, for sure. But Seattle's defense has been Swiss cheese. They've been sent through the meat grinder the past several weeks of the year, especially, I think more so. They were kind of, in a way, they were a bend but don't break defense in my mind, Isaiah, until they got exposed, I think, big time by the Cardinals, I'd say maybe 2 weeks ago, when they lost that game in overtime down in Glendale, Arizona. I think today, though, we're further picked apart in Swiss cheese today against Buffalo. But more so, Josh Allen, I think, Isaiah, is the main talking point in my mind for this game. I mean, he outdueled. I think that Gabe Jackson was right, though, Isaiah. He outslung and he outthrew and outperformed Russell Wilson in so many different areas of this ball game today. But more so, I look at Josh Allen's game, but with the rushing TDs today, I mean, he had his way inside the 15 or 20 yard line, and he found open space, man, and he was taking advantage of that, of all the open field. Isaiah, more so, thoughts about Josh Allen's performance today, more so for Buffalo. Maybe, perhaps, or not really maybe, but, more so being the driving force of Buffalo's big-time win over Seattle on Sunday.
It was very impressive, but I'm not surprised again because, Kyler Murray did the same thing to the Seahawks defense. They can't stop the run. They can't stop a quarterback when he's mobile and he can run. They can't rush the passer. So Josh Allen was getting hella time to throw the football. It just like shows you that the Seahawks defense is bad. I think this was more bad Seahawks defense than good or great Buffalo Bills offense.
So again, folks, as mentioned, but Buffalo comes away with a very nice 44-34 victory over the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday from, as mentioned, Orchard Park, New York. Some thoughts here. One quick thought actually rolled in, Isaiah, from James about the Broncos. Maybe trading Von Miller and getting picks back could perhaps help the Broncos out in his mind. Also, thoughts about the Seahawks and Bills game from Mr. Gonzalez. Despite the injury Seattle had, was very disappointed in the Seahawks today. I think a lot of people were, especially if you picked them perhaps in a pool, perhaps, or you put money on them. Also, James Gonzalez. But give credit, though, to Allen and the Bills for showing up today and showing why they are first in the AFC East. And I think that James, though, had a better point, though, maybe I'd say maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago. James had a very valid point, though, when Buffalo had played New England, I believe. It may have been last week, I think. But James had probably the best comment of the show on Sunday, either last week or 2 weeks ago, or in that time frame when, in fact, the Pats lost to Buffalo, by saying that game alone right there was pretty much the visual evidence of it being the passing of the torch of the Patriots of 20-plus years of owning and destroying that division and everyone involved in that division for the past several years. And for the latter part of a decade or 2 decades, you actually saw that passing of the torch from the Pats to the new kids on the block and the Buffalo Bills. And I think that James had it said very well a couple of shows ago here on the 6th. And also Casey King, Bills are a good team and nice to see the AFC East, a changing of the guard. And the Bills, I think, will and the Bills, I think, with that dub in the end, Dolphins will give them a push, and I think that the Bills are still better. I think I would agree, though. Although I've been impressed, though, with Tua Tagovailoa through pretty much 2 starts and 1, kind of fill-in game. But that right now, it's Buffalo and Miami against New England and the Jets right now for that division title. And also, James says, amazing that it was a warm 68 degrees at game time in Orchard Park, New York today. And here we've had rain and freezing cold temperatures and rain and wind out here in Southern California, and they're getting sunshine and nice weather back on the East Coast right now. But again, folks, as mentioned, it is, again, the Bills in part of a very great game. And again, again, folks, more so in my mind, though, I know, of course, we probably have our thoughts about Seattle and how they have looked on defense. And I know that people probably have their thoughts about Josh Allen, but Josh Allen's performance today, super spectacular in my mind, as already mentioned here. But again, folks, it is Seattle faltering to the Buffalo Bills, as mentioned, 44-34. Next game, Isaiah and company out there, the Ravens and Colts in a very good AFC showdown between the Ravens and Colts from Lucas Oil Stadium out there in Indianapolis, Indiana. Baltimore gets back on the winning ways after a tough setback versus the unbeaten Steelers last week. They win 24-10 on the road against the Colts, where at one point, though, this game was a very, very physical battle more. So a lot of big hits in this ball game. But as mentioned, the Ravens were able to pull this one out 24-10 over Indianapolis. Isaiah, I think, though, very vital for Baltimore to get back on the winning ways after, of course, having that pretty gut-wrenching loss to the Steelers about a week or so ago. And, of course, the Colts still hanging around with a very good Tennessee ball club in the AFC South right now. Isaiah, overall takeaway from the Ravens road win over the Colts on Sunday?
My biggest takeaway from this game is a tweet that I saw, I think it was during or after this game, where it says, when the Colts have to play catch up, they are doomed. Plain and simple. The Colts, Phillip Rivers, he was a great quarterback when he was in San Diego, but he is no longer that guy that, when you're down by like 14 or 17 late in that game, he can put your team on his back and lead your team to victory. That's not who Phillip Rivers is. I think Phillip Rivers is now more like Jimmy Garoppolo, where you have to have a good running game in order for him to be successful. You have to have a good running game for him to be effective. I just think, Phillip Rivers, he kept getting harassed today by the Ravens' dominant pass rush. He was 25 of 43 for 227 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. He just really, he put up good numbers, but he just couldn't be effective because that Ravens pass rush was just swarming him all day long and forcing him to get the ball out quick. And the coach, they just couldn't do anything on offense today. And you got to give credit where credit is due to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson against this really good Colts defense. He was 19 of 23 for 179 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, but he did have 13 carries, 58 yards rushing, and also 1 touchdown. He was pretty good in this game, but I think the biggest story in this game was how dominant the Ravens' pass rush was.
Yeah, I think Baltimore's defense is mainly the winning, who gets the game ball in my mind for this victory by Baltimore. Again, they'll bounce back nicely. But again, very rough start to this game, though, for both sides of the ball with both the Colts and Ravens. Again, a very lackluster beginning, though. But James Gonzalez, Isaiah, has a very valid point, though. To start the game, the Ravens could not get anything going, but then they scored the defensive touchdown, and then they were on their way. And again, I think more so for me, this Baltimore win, to me, it's critical that they won this game, as mentioned, going into week 9, and you're behind Pittsburgh again, who hasn't lost a game yet this season. And at the same time as well, that sometimes a loss to a team like Pittsburgh, Isaiah, especially to a quarterback of Lamar Jackson's caliber, that could stay in their head for a bit longer than a week. That could be with them for a while, and they probably make those same mistakes again. But more so, I think it was important, though, that Baltimore got back on the winning ways, though, and got back on it right away, not waiting another week or so to get back with winning games. Tyler Work writes in to say, after his playing career is done, Phillip Rivers might try selling instructional videos on how to properly tackle. Oh, my goodness gracious, man. We'll actually have a bit of a nod to Phillip Rivers a bit later on in the show about that. But Isaiah, what do you have to add about this?
Yes, sir. I was gonna say the same thing. We're gonna have more about that in our blooper of the week segment, our new blooper of the week segment coming up in a bit. Make sure you guys tune in for that.
Yeah, so I think Tyler's hinting at maybe one of the top 5 bloopers of the week. Some more thoughts here. Casey said, oh, guys, the Battle of Baltimore. I still sometimes think that the Colts are still in Baltimore. I think a lot of people do. But when you're about as old as these two guys on panel, like myself and Isaiah, you probably didn't remember the Colts being in Baltimore. We always remember the Ravens and, of course, the Colts being in Indianapolis. And also, James has a very interesting question, Isaiah. The Marcus Peters interception was so questionable. How was that play a catch and control? Question mark. I think, Isaiah, this goes back to the point we had on Saturday night, though, more so, buddy, where we had talked a lot about the Clemson-Notre Dame game and all the reviews that had gone on, though. That play was a very big head-scratching play, as there will be one more play I'll get to in the next game we'll talk about. But, Isaiah, give us your thoughts here maybe about that interception call, again, in regards to the Marcus Peters INT for Baltimore in this ball game.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it later on because, I was watching, I think one of the games on CBS, and they flipped, they showed a highlight of it, but it was really quick. But I just think that the interpretation of what a catch is just really hard to identify because there's so much definitions of what a catch is. So I never really saw exactly what happened, but I just think right now in the NFL, nobody has a really clear-cut answer of what exactly is a catch. Every week you see something different. So I'm not really sure.
Des Bryant had to ruin it for everybody with that one catch against Green Bay in the playoffs many years ago, sadly. With that in mind, folks, speaking of Phillip Rivers and his old employers, let's all folks sing along, shall we? The Chargers lose again. The Chargers lose again. 60 years of losing. The Chargers lose again. The Chargers lose again. The Chargers lose again. 60 years of losing. The Chargers lose again. And once again, folks, the Chargers find a way to once again lose in very, very unbelievable fashion. The Las Vegas Raiders hang on to win this game 31-26 after a very somewhat questionable touchdown call, Isaiah, at the final buzzer of this game that was initially ruled a touchdown. but then though was after review of the scoring play was ruled incomplete. This comes, by the way, literally I think 4 seconds after we had a fourth timeout called for the Chargers after Mike Williams was injured on a potential catching play or a potential touchdown play. He hit the ground pretty hard though. But Isaiah, normally though, man, in a situation like that, if a team is out of timeouts, or if a player, I believe, on a team gets hurt in the waning 2 minutes of the game, there has to be a 10-second runoff of the game clock. But the referee, per his explanation, said that because it was a dead ball play when he was hurt, the clock would not run out to end the ball game. Then we had, of course, the potential game-winning touchdown catch that was ruled a catch on the field, though. But after review, the refs get it right, though, where again the ball was juggled and then was hit the turf after the receiver came down with it, perhaps inbounds, out of bounds. But Isaiah, either way, though, the LA Chargers once again find a way to break their fans' hearts. And once again, Isaiah, it's another late, devastating Charger loss in the dying minutes of a ball game. And the Raiders now move themselves into a good spot now in second place in the AFC West division. Isaiah, overall thoughts on the Raiders, thanks to their defense and the luck of video review, knocking off the LA Chargers on Sunday from SoFi Stadium.
John Gruden and the Raiders are extremely lucky to be 5-3. This one was way too close for comfort, man. You had to rely on replay to confirm the fact that to give you the victory. I just think the Raiders, their offense played very well, but like we've been saying all year long, it's their defense. The Raiders will go as far as their defense takes them. And the Raiders defense, they were up, I believe, 28-17 in the fourth quarter, and their defense just gave up. Their defense just gave up a bunch of points towards the end, and they didn't play that good. They didn't really get that much pressure in Justin Herbert's face the entire day. Their secondary, besides Jonathan Abram, didn't really play that well. Jonathan Abram was a beast, especially in the running game. Just watch that tackle that he had when I believe it was Joshua Kelly that ran the ball, and he had like a huge hole, but Jonathan Abram came from the left side all the way to the right side and hit him super hard and knocked him down. And he saved what would have been a huge play for the Chargers. And he's going to be a great safety in the NFL for a long, long time. But the Raiders, they got to fix that defense quickly because, I know they're in playoff position right now. But if the Raiders, they want to win a playoff game, and if they want to go far in the playoffs, they have to fix that defense because you can't win if your defense continuously to play poor like they have been doing the entire year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Although I'm going to give some love here though to Derek Carr though, because Derek Carr had some very sensational throws though in this ball game. I think he had a touchdown pass that went for, or at least on a drive though, he had a 53-yard pass that was an absolute beaut in between traffic, and Derek Carr, minus a couple of maybe some minor miscues throughout the course of the game, they'll look very well in this game. But I agree, though, more so I say with the Raider defense. The Raiders, the Bears, those are two franchises in my mind that are always known for sensational or very intimidating defensive, defenses. And that was Seattle for a bit, probably not right now, KC for a bit, the Raiders and the Bears. Those four clubs in my mind have always been hallmarks in regards to how, in fact, their defense is played. But at the same time, though, I agree, though, that the defense wins you championships. Like Pat Summitt, the great women's basketball coach at Tennessee, once said a long, long time ago, that your defense your defense will carry you, and that the Raiders, of course, have some holes to probably patch up, though, on the defensive end. Some thoughts here about this game. Casey King changes my lyrics to "The Renters lose again." The Renters lose again. Either way, though, it's still 60 years of losing. Continues on and on for the LA Chargers. James Gonzalez agrees that, Callan, that song is literally music to my ears. I think a lot of people agree. Also, James says, as a Raider fan, I was so relieved on the review to overturn the call. I mean, even Isaiah, I don't know if you saw the ending of this game, though, but honestly, if I'm kind of glad though that the NFL does go the route of reviewing scoring plays though for reasons of this nature though, because what would have happened though if this play would have stood though, and then the Raiders lose a game in this kind of fashion though. But I think Isaiah, props for the NFL going the route of having scoring plays reviewed, but also though, man, credit goes though to the replay official and the refereeing crew though for getting this call right after review of the play.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because if they, didn't have replay and this was the Chargers game-winning touchdown, all the Raider fans would probably be they would be like, in their cars driving to NFL headquarters to protest because like to lose when it obviously wasn't clear at first when he first called on TV, but you could see it on the third replay where the ball clearly bounces on the ground and he goes and collects it. So to lose that way, that would have been terrible, but I am glad the Raiders were able to pull this one off.
Yeah, definitely. So I think props go to the replay officials for seeing that angle that I think we all saw on television to overturn that touchdown call. Also, Casey with a very interesting question, Isaiah. Can either of you guys confirm that fans were at this game? Did not see the game, but I heard they had Charger fans in the stadium. Any truth to that? Casey, I'm going to have to say as of now, I'm going to say no. Due to the California COVID-19 protocol rules in place right now by the governor's office that fans cannot attend ball games right now unless they reach a certain threshold or a certain tier color for how we have right now. But Isaiah, I don't recall seeing anybody in the stands. I recall seeing a lot of tarps, though, like we usually have seen, though, at SoFi Stadium. There may have been perhaps maybe the crowd noise could have been a bit more piped in louder than it probably was. But, Casey, I will go with cannot confirm any fans at this game today. Isaiah, anything to add on about this? Because I know that, of course, there's been obviously a lot of banter about the rules in place in California, but I do not believe that I saw any fans actually in the stands at SoFi Stadium today.
Well, when I watched the game, they didn't really show the parts where I watched it. They didn't really show the stands. They just showed the field. But from what I was hearing, when the Chargers, every time a penalty went on the Chargers, I did hear booing, which really confused me because normally when they do pipe in the crowd noise, you don't hear booing. But I did hear a lot of booing, and I was thinking is there fans because there is booing coming in, but maybe because they piped in some booing sounds. I don't know, but that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, Casey, I mean, it's a very valid point, though, but I believe with the rules in place, and especially right now in Los Angeles County, they're in the most restrictive tier right now of the COVID rules in place for the state, which I'll be in San Diego probably come Tuesday. But basically, you're not allowed to have fans in a stadium for pro or college games, I believe, until I think, Isaiah, the orange or the top tier. So the top two tiers, I believe, is where you can actually have fans in. But right now, if you're in the bottom two, you're not allowed to have spectators at a game, though. So in my mind, it may have been that the crowd noise may have been a little bit more louder, and they may have perhaps added some booing tracks to the audio as opposed to random just crowd banter or random crowd noise, though. But I believe that it was more so perhaps a bit more amplified, but also as well that it was probably as well perhaps some new buttons that they were pushing in the DJ booth. Also, some thoughts from James Gonzalez. Corey Littleton, Isaiah, has been awful as one of the free agent signings on the Raider defense. And also, James says, ever since I put down Derek Carr weeks ago, he's been stepping up to the plate. And I think that usually happens 9 times out of 10. I think, though, as well, Isaiah, that I think that Derek Carr would probably agree, though. The Raiders probably, in his mind, probably have expectations for once. Because, for one, you're in a brand new market, brand new stadium, brand new city for one as well, with you being in Vegas, and also that you want to make that city proud, because I think in a way, this is very off base in my mind, but Isaiah, knowing though that you're going into a new market that already has one successful franchise on the pro level with the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, another very successful franchise in the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA, you kind of have to live to that expectation of being great and not being mediocre or bad in your first season when you move to that market. But Isaiah, would you agree, though, perhaps that Derek Carr and the Raiders realize that they're in a brand new spot, though, and in a way have some very lofty expectations to live up to, more so because of the other teams in town already in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I believe it because the Raiders, Vegas, they have so many things going on. They have the casinos, they've got the hotels, they've got different shows going on at the hotels, they've got the Golden Knights. They're kind of like Los Angeles, where, if you don't have success, the fans can just easily move on to something else. They don't have to, watch you play football, like play bad football. So the Raiders, obviously, this season, they had to get off to a good start. They have to make the playoffs this season, because if they make the playoffs this season, then fans will get excited. Fans will buy tickets. Fans will buy season tickets. They will come to games next season, hopefully, when there is fans allowed. And, I also want to bring up one thing, Callan, and that is, can we start putting Clelin Ferrell as a bust? Clelin Ferrell was the Raiders defensive end who they drafted, I believe, with the 4th overall pick. I might be wrong on the exact pick, but they surprised a whole lot of people back in, I think it was 2017, when they drafted Clelin Ferrell. And this guy, I've watched him play. He hasn't really gotten pressure like in the 3 seasons that he's been with the Oakland Raiders and then now the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, I get the fact that he did get a stop on 4th down, but he hasn't really done anything for the Raiders in the time that he's been there.
Also, some more thoughts. James agrees about the Raider defense. They are awful, was hoping for some improvement. James echoes the sentiments, though, about Casey, wondering about fans being in the stadium today in Inglewood. Mario Lopez, and his family somehow got into the game courtesy of, I won't even say the owner's name. And here Mario Lopez is from San Diego, California, and he turned his back on all the sports teams here, including the Padres for the Dodgers. James more so adds on real quick about the fans perhaps being inside of SoFi Stadium today, folks. But James says no fans there. The fan noise was just from the PA system. Only time you'll hear a cheer for the Chargers at their home games. Yeah, pretty much. Also, James says, I was hoping that the Raiders would have went to the playoffs for Oakland last season, but of course in the back pretty much is where it's at right here and right now. Also, James says that Ferrell still doesn't have a sack this season. So frustrating. Also, Casey agrees that the Raiders need more defense. And Dr. Ted Vicky writes in, sounded like more Steeler fans inside of AT&T Stadium. We'll actually get to that, Dr. Vicky, but I believe more so listening to the game on radio today on 1360 here in San Diego, Ted. Believe that they were saying about 75% of the fan base that was in Jerry's World was actually Steeler fans. Very impressive again from the very well-traveled Steeler fan base. And also Casey says the Raiders are still Oakland to me. It is what it is, but they definitely, I think, fit the Vegas culture and the Vegas scene. Isaiah, what do you got for us?
Another thing I want to add about the Raider game is that, listen, I am tired of all the hate that Derek Carr gets. Yes, Derek Carr might not be the flashiest quarterback in the world. He might not have Patrick Mahomes' arm where he can throw a ball 50 yards down the field. He might not have Lamar Jackson's legs where he can, run around, make guys miss. But this guy is a consistent top 10 quarterback in the NFL. This guy might not be flashy, but he can get the job done. And I really hope that people stop hating on Derek Carr, because if you look at his stats, this guy doesn't turn the ball over. I mean, he hasn't I think he's only had 1 interception in the last 2-3 games. I might be wrong on that, but this guy doesn't turn the ball over. He can make good plays. That's all you basically need in a quarterback.
I mean, and again, it's probably a lot of things, though, where it's not really, he hasn't looked good, though. But I think, though, a playoff appearance probably changes people's narratives about him. But again, you got to kind of get there first. But again, the Raiders, thanks to a overturned touchdown at the final buzzer, knock off the LA Chargers from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, 31-26. Next game, Isaiah. Another very interesting ballgame with the Steelers for the first time in franchise history. The Steelers are now 8-0 for the first time in club history. They knock off the Dallas Cowboys, who fought to the final buzzer pretty much with 24-19. Pittsburgh knocks off Dallas in a very interesting game, Isaiah, that again sees the Steelers for the first time in club history go to 8-0 on the season. And again, that's the first time in franchise history that Pittsburgh finds themselves at 8-0. But Isaiah, I will, though, man, probably be one of the very few people to give props, though, to Garrett Gilbert for nearly pulling off the perhaps biggest ups of the entire NFL season in my mind, with the Cowboys having all their issues, all their woes, all their injuries, and all the quarterback issues that they've had recently. And Garrett Gilbert nearly won this game up until the pass was batted down that would have perhaps set them up to win the ball game at the dying seconds of the fourth quarter. But Isaiah, the Steelers are now 8-0, as mentioned, buddy. A great game, though, but at the same time, Isaiah, Sally, for Dallas, they lose once again. And with that in mind, Isaiah, your thoughts about this game are what?
My thoughts on this is that Minkah Fitzpatrick single-handedly won this game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they need to send Minkah Fitzpatrick like another bonus check or maybe a $50 gift card to a restaurant or something like that, because he deserves it. This guy is one of the best safeties in the NFL. And today, the Dallas Cowboys, they lost 24-19, but they had two possessions where they could have easily won this game. The first possession was in the second quarter. The Dallas Cowboys, they were driving down to try to score a touchdown. I believe it was 2nd and goal. And, Garrett Gilbert throws a pass, and it is picked off by Minkah Fitzpatrick to prevent the Dallas Cowboys from scoring any points there. And then on another drive, Garrett Gilbert throws a pass. He throws it kind of high. It gets tipped in the air, intercepted by Minkah Fitzpatrick. Steelers, they get the football at, I believe, they get the football at the Cowboys 47 with just under 40 seconds to go before halftime. The Cowboys could have easily drove down the field, got a couple of more points before halftime, but Minkah Fitzpatrick prevented it both times. Minkah Fitzpatrick needs to be given some extra gifts and an extra check because he clearly earned it today.
I'm sure he'll be fine with the game ball and their 8th straight win. Again, the first time of the Steelers in their franchise history, again, illustrious franchise history. The Steelers are 8-0 for the first time, as mentioned. But again, I think, though, Isaiah, that James Gonzalez said it right, though. Props to Dallas, though, for leading in the game. I was thinking a Steelers blowout. A lot of people probably were thinking about that, but more so, Isaiah. I look at this, though, at Garrett Gilbert more so doing his damnedest to keep this Cowboys, sinking ship somewhat afloat, though, during a very rough time, though. Again, they've been to their 4th-string quarterback, now their 5th-string quarterback, perhaps, and of course, they come up short. But at the same time, though, they hung in there with the right now best team in the NFL, record-wise at least. Now they're 8-0 on the season, but again, a 7-0 Pittsburgh ball club. But again, Minkah Fitzpatrick with one hell of a game, though, for Pittsburgh. And really, I think, is more so the reason why, though, this game was won by the Steelers today, more so than anything else. Also, some thoughts, Isaiah, about relocation. Chardol writes in that the Warriors should still be in Oakland, and he'll, of course, miss going to Oracle Arena, and also that they moved to San Francisco. But at the same time, though, I mean, I get that, Isaiah, but at the same time, they're still being called Golden State, so I don't really see that as that big of a ordeal.
I don't see that either. Plus, the fact is that the Chase Center is a very nice arena, and they're going to get tons and tons of money coming in just from that arena alone.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Also, Dr. Vicky is questioning Isaiah. Only $50?
I got to change that. I misspoke. Give him a $500 gift card, not a $50
more reasonable. That sounds more reasonable. Also, James Gonzalez also says that Minkah Fitzpatrick is a beast. And also, James, with a very good point, though, Isaiah. Seems like whenever a well-traveled team comes into Jerry's world, the road team fans take over, as if Cowboy fans sell their tickets to that road team coming in. Sounds like my hometown with the Chargers when they knew that the ownership was on their way out to go to Los Angeles. Notably, when the Steelers came to San Diego a couple of times, even when they went to L.A., they took over the team and they were singing, "Renegade" by Styx so damn loud, and they even tried to rickroll them, rickrolled them, and that, of course, didn't come to fruition. Even Chicago had a very good following out here in San Diego as well, which I found to be very awesome as well. And also, Steven says real quick about an upcoming game: death, taxes, Tampa Bay not winning the NFC South division. We'll talk about that game, folks, in just a moment. But one more game, Isaiah. Probably the other good game in the afternoon window. Tua versus Kyler. Dolphins over the Cardinals 34-31 in a great ball game between two very young budding superstar quarterbacks in my mind, in the very distant, or hopefully not too distant future, Isaiah. Again, 34-31 in favor of the Dolphins, who so far, Isaiah, they're kind of creeping a little bit in the AFC East. Probably not going to win the division title, though. But I think, Isaiah, this could be a ball club. If things keep going according to plan and nothing further gets out of control, this Dolphins team is going to be in the mix, as is Arizona in my mind. Isaiah, probably the one of the better games on the day so far. But Isaiah, your overall thoughts, though, on this game? As mentioned, Tua outduels Kyler 34-31 Miami over Arizona.
You said it right, Callan. The Dolphins have something special building down there in South Beach. I mean, they've got their quarterback. They've got good offensive weapons. Offensive line needs a little bit more work, but hey, they've got a tons of draft picks coming in the next few years. Brian Flores has built a great culture down there in Miami. I think that he's probably going to be the first coach out of the Bill Belichick coaching tree to have major success running his own franchise. The defense is getting better. I am just so excited for the Miami Dolphins future. They have a bright future down in Miami, and they're just a couple. I would say they are probably like 3 to 4 pieces away from seriously contending in the AFC.
Some thoughts here, Isaiah, real quick about this game. James Gonzalez writes in, I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins is getting double-teamed by defenses, but Arizona has got to get Hopkins the ball so much more than what they're doing. Isaiah, I don't know if it's necessarily the coverage that's going on, but at the same time, though, I think that probably that, a coach in Cliff Kingsbury, Isaiah, in my mind, is just trying his best to get this thing to work, though. But I think, though, that James on to a good point, though. But I think as more time goes on, though, you'll see D-Hop be more involved in the Arizona offense very, very shortly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also, to James's point or James's question, I think he is getting double teamed a lot because from the games that I've watched, I remember Seattle, they double teamed him. The Rams, I believe, double teamed him as well. A lot of teams, like, they're putting their main focus on defense in trying to defend DeAndre Hopkins, which I think is letting Larry Fitzgerald be the Larry Fitzgerald of old that we know and love. So I think, like, D-Hop's going to get it going. He's a beast. I just think that right now he's getting used to the offense and also used to the fact that, he's getting the bulk of the attention of opposing defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think it's more so that respect factor that you garner in your time, too, that, when you're a big name player like Hopkins, I think you get that respect, though, with you perhaps being double teamed, more so a respect thing than anything else. Isaiah, what do you got to add on?
Also, the Cardinals have a ton of weapons at their disposal. They have a good running back in Kenyon Drake. They got Kyler Murray, who can do things with his arm and his legs. They at wide receiver, they've got Larry Fitzgerald, who's a future Hall of Famer. They've got Christian Kirk. They have DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's the fact that he's getting double teamed and also the fact that there's just a lot of weapons around him. So, like, he's not getting, the bulk load of the touches.
James is right. Yep. Christian Kirk has been balling out for the Cardinals this season. Ron Davis writes in, the Steelers are dead to me forever. I would like to know why, Mr. Davis, as to why they are dead to you forever. But again, folks, great game. But the Dolphins, in a battle of future NFL superstars, the Dolphins knock off the Cardinals from Glendale 34-31. The Finns over the Cards. Final game of the night, Isaiah, the big primetime game on NBC. As mentioned, it was the Saints and the Bucks in a battle for the top spot in the NFC South division. With that in mind, Isaiah, sadly, man, I got to put the shades back on because, folks, you're looking at the only MI6 Sports Network host who picked the Saints to go in and march on into Tampa and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone else went with Tampa Bay. I went with New Orleans, and the Saints handily dismantle Tampa Bay 38-3. Saints over Tampa Bay in this game was not even close. A 31-0 halftime lead for New Orleans and a very, very dismal performance by Tom Brady, who had a night to forget so out of control, Isaiah, that Jameis Winston came into this ball game to play with New Orleans. But Isaiah, this I think though, man, just shows though that Tom Brady is good and all, man, or he's obviously one of the greatest of all time. and things of that caliber. But Isaiah, sometimes though, man, there's those quarterbacks out there that get the best of Tom Brady, and Drew Brees has probably been that one major, or maybe one of those rare thorn in the sides of Tom Brady in his career. And again, Tom with probably his worst game of a season, and probably one of his worst games in recent memory. But Isaiah, an absolutely amazing game for the Saints, though. They sweep the season series, and now, though, man, have that all-important head-to-head tiebreaker now over Tampa Bay. In fact, the teams end up tied for the NFC South Division. But Isaiah, give us your thoughts here as the Saints go marching in and crush Tampa Bay 38-3 from the new sombrero in Tampa, Florida.
This was an absolute shocker, Callan. I honestly thought that, I was sleeping comfortably in my bed and dreaming during this entire game. I could not believe what I witnessed. Coming into this game, it was being hyped as one of the best games of the season. You had Brady versus Brees, two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going at it. And also you had two high-powered offenses with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and the newly acquired Antonio Brown, with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette on the Bucs going up against Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara on the New Orleans Saints, and two great offensive minds going at it. Bruce Arians on the Bucs versus Sean Payton on the New Orleans Saints. This had it all written as a classic, but instead it turned out to be an absolute snooze fest. My biggest question for the Bucs and Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, their offensive coordinator, is why did you not rely on the running game more in this game? I think they only ran the ball for 5 times, and two of those 5 times came when Blaine Gabbert took a knee to end the ball game. Like, the Buccaneers, from what I've watched against Green Bay and when they played the New York Giants, they've been running the football very efficiently. And yeah, they've been running the football very efficiently. And when they run the football very good, they have success, because then Tom Brady doesn't need to, air the ball out 500,000 times. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers should have stuck with their bread and butter the last few weeks, which is just run the football and, get into third and manageable, and let Tom Brady throw it out to Mike Evans, throw it out to Antonio Brown, throw it out to Chris Godwin, instead of passing the ball so many times. I don't know what the game plan was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Bruce Arians was just trying to, try to have a flashy offense, but you don't need to be flashy. Who cares if you're flashy? It's all about winning games. And right now, this season, what we've seen is that when you have success is when you are running the ball very well. And also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their offensive line, they need to come back as soon as possible. The New Orleans Saints pass rush was just swarming Tom Brady all night long. Trayvon Henderson was fantastic. Marcus Davenport was fantastic. Those two on the edge are a scary duo for the New Orleans Saints. And the New Orleans Saints tonight sent a loud and clear message to the rest of the NFL saying, hey, don't forget about us. We are still a very good team. We might have struggled earlier in the season, but we are still a very good ball club.
I agree. That's why I went with New Orleans, because, as I have said plenty of times, folks, is that a team like Tampa Bay just being, kind of in a way being built like a super team, though, again, with Brady, Gronk, and all these weapons, sometimes results don't come right away. Yes, Tampa's look good, though, but when you have a more experience, I wouldn't even say experience, but more so a team that's been together for a longer time together than just inserting two puzzle pieces into the mix, though, it takes that time. And I think that's why I went more so with New Orleans in this game. I know, of course, that Tampa, had all these weapons. They were playing hot football, though. But, the Saints, though, made this prime time, showdown into pretty much, a snooze fest. And as Isaiah said, more so a snooze fest and a laugher more than anything else, though, as mentioned, a 38-3 win for New Orleans, again, who handily takes down Tampa Bay without any issues in this game. Some other thoughts that rolled in, Isaiah, about the Dolphins. James agrees, though. Props to the Dolphins, predicted to being a bottom 5 team and shocking everybody being in the race right now. Ron Davis did actually say why the Steelers are dead to him forever. Cannot celebrate his Raiders winning because the Steelers cost him $440 in Vegas. Ouch.
Yikes.
That one hurts. Tyler agrees with Isaiah about Miami being a few pieces away. If they could develop more of a running game, they could really make that jump to the next level. Definitely agree with that. I mean, they're maybe one big piece away from becoming a very scary team. And also, James, about the Saints walloping the Bucks, prime time became nap time. Yikes. Yeah, it definitely became nap time. Again, the Saints were up 31-0 at halftime of this ball game. Casey King, Tampa for sure. Sure forgot to show up. Brady really showed his age being out there today. That's definitely a very valid point as well. James also writes in, Saints still with the stranglehold on the NFC South division, as Tampa in his mind is not ready for prime time right now at this juncture. Also, shareable Stephen Wang writes in, Jameis Winston against his former team. Eye emoji. We'll see how things go. Casey thought the game was so out of control, he turned the game off in the third quarter and tuned into the USC Trojans Tunnel Vision podcast. Good spot. I listen to a lot of our podcast, actually, when I'm asleep at night or if I'm bored during the course of a football game like this. And also, Stephen Wang with the big stat. Breeze is now 5-2 all time in his career versus Tom Brady when they've matched up so far this season. Also, that James agrees with Isaiah. It seemed to him that the Bucs were throwing right away with the passing offense. But again, folks, the Saints go marching in, quite literally, and destroy and wallop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 38-3 in favor of the Saints over Tampa Bay to sweep the two-game NFC South matchups this season. And Isaiah, I agree with his message to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Please run the ball. It's not that damn difficult. I definitely agree. Of course, folks, before we in fact get to our final segments here, we would be very remiss, folks, if we did not, of course, report the very sad news on this Sunday, November the 8th, 2020. But of course, folks, a legend of television game shows for over 30 plus years, the one and only Alex Trebek, of course, from Jeopardy for a bit there, hosting Double Dare and other programs. Sadly, folks, Alex, again, came out very publicly with his bout with pancreatic cancer. And sadly, folks, Alex Trebek passed away earlier on Sunday morning at his home in Los Angeles, surrounded by family and friends, reported by the Jeopardy Twitter account today. You know, Isaiah, for a long time, I, for one, grew up always enjoying watching game shows on television. I would wait around until 7 o'clock and watch Wheel of Fortune with Pat and Vanna, then watch Alex host Jeopardy at 7:30 on our NBC station down here. Still do that every once in a while. But also, though, Isaiah, more so, you think about, though, the number of tributes coming in, though, from the sports world. And also Alex being a very, being a Canadian, I believe he actually was one of the people who introduced a draft pick for the Ottawa Senators at this year's NHL entry draft just about 2 months ago, roughly. And that Alex, of course, loved hockey, was a big hockey fan. There's a photo I shared, I think, on my Instagram story today of him wearing his suit, with gloves on and a stick and a jersey on. Isaiah, I think I also saw somewhere, too, that there was a fellow colleague of mine, I think, out there that put on the web that watching Jeopardy was how he would learn about subjects and kind of get better in school, and that people used Jeopardy or watched his program to get better at certain subjects in school, or, maybe you play with your family, at nighttime. Me and my great grandmother would watch Wheel of Fortune, The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, or watch these game shows and try to, play along with them. But also that Alex Trebek, though, Isaiah, he, did such a stellar job, though, of hosting Jeopardy, hosting other programs, but also that in a way, though, this was a way for us to kind of help educate ourselves better in history or science or other avenues of life, though. And I guess, Isaiah, your reaction also, how will you remember Alex Trebek? Again, as mentioned, folks, sadly, the great Jeopardy host, again, passing away on Sunday after, again, a very public battle with cancer earlier on Sunday morning.
Just absolutely sucks, man. I didn't see this news until you posted it on your Facebook story, Callan, and then that's when I got notified of it. It just really sucks. It shows you cancer sucks. And I really wish that, we could get a cure for cancer. We could find a cure because, it's taking so many lives in our world, and it took another life today. Alex Trebek was just a tremendous person. He was so kind. He was a great influencer. He was a great teacher. Like among the tributes that I saw, Callan, was that, like you said, Alex Trebek, people from watching Jeopardy, they learned about and they got better at certain subjects. Also, I saw on Twitter that this guy that played Jeopardy, or he appeared on the Jeopardy show, he thanked Alex Trebek. I think this was in the final credits when, like, I think he won. I don't know if he won or lost the Jeopardy game, but he thanked Alex Trebek because he told him that he learned English because of watching Jeopardy. That's how he learned English, and that show was just a huge influence to everyone. I'm pretty sure our fans watching our show right now, they've been influenced by Jeopardy in some sort of way, and they can tell their story. But it's just really sad that cancer takes another person and takes someone that was just such a great guy and just such a great influencer.
Folks, you may notice in my studio, probably not the best with the lights being out here, but there's 2 placards up on my bedroom wall behind me here. And all the organizations I work for, mainly with the San Diego Gulls and the San Diego Seals of pro hockey and pro lacrosse, every year, folks, we get these cards in November or in February or January to fill out, and we do a pretty much what Major League Baseball does with the whole Stand Up to Cancer initiative, though, but we write names down on these placards, and we have a stoppage and play, and we all stand and we have these cards up, and again, we have all the stuff going on, and we have jersey sales that are purple or pink to raise awareness about breast cancer or cancer in general, or you see things like this go on, folks, in pro sports. And, for the names up there for me is my great-grandfather, Ron Callan, again, former Staff Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, who's also on my Tree of Life tattoo right here where my finger's at. Joe Weirick, who is one of my friends. Her stepdad passed away from cancer. One of my other friends, Mia McPolin, she suffers from a rare form of blood cancer. And I think that's everybody up there. But, in a way, though, we all have been touched, though, folks, by cancer. And again, it sucks to see like a guy like Alex Trebek, though, sadly succumbed to his illness. And again, Alex was very public with his diagnosis and with his battle with it, but also was still, though, much like Chadwick Boseman, though, was still filming episodes of Jeopardy and still going to work and getting through it every single passing day. And also, as mentioned, Alex Trebek, though, probably a big influence, though, folks, as well with sports. Well, I think as well, Isaiah, that the Lakers put out a video today that Trebek actually filmed a message for Kobe during his final home game at Staples Center in 2016. So it just shows you, Isaiah, that, yeah, Trebek's known as, Trebek is known for being a great game show host, but, this guy loved sports. And of course, man, was a big hockey fan.
Yeah, man, this guy loves sports. He influenced a lot of people. Without him, he just made such a big impact in our world, and it just really sucks that he's gone now, and that cancer just takes another person. I'm just devastated, man.
Yeah, sad news to report, as mentioned, folks. The great Jeopardy host, again, the man himself, Alex Trebek, sadly passing away, folks, today at the age of 80. I believe it was 80 years old today. If I'm wrong about that, I sincerely apologize. But again, folks, very sad news nonetheless. Some thoughts here about Alex Trebek and his career. First from Casey King. Alex was a class act and was a great host for Jeopardy, and also was a great host for the great host of Classic Concentration back in the 80s and 90s. He will be missed. R.I.P. to Mr. Trebek. James Gonzalez with a great story. James says, my mom would not let me watch certain things on television, but sports, PBS, and game shows were allowed. I grew up with Alex Trebek weekly, watching with my mom, trying to guess the correct answers and learning so much. Do remember bawling out on the sports and music questions on the show. Anything with sports, I'm pretty much good with. And we'll see how things, of course, go. Also, Shareable Steve writes in, RIP to Mr. Trebek. Both of my grandfathers were taken from cancer. It's a devastating illness. Again, that echoes Isaiah's point. Also, as well, James says that Trebek was so easy easygoing, hosting Jeopardy, and even adding a little humor during the course of the program. I think that the greatest clip that was put out, though, by Bleacher Report was of the entire football segment, I think, and literally none of the contestants guessed. And Alex had a funny quip, though, of like, I see you guys don't watch a lot of sports or pro football, and that he knew it was not going to be a very good category. So as mentioned about that dry humor or humor that James echoes. Casey also writes in that Trebek was also a huge USC fan as well. Jeopardy won't be the same without him. Also, Chardol writes in about his thoughts. Was really sad to hear about the passing of Alex Trebek, and also am a big fan of the program. Really liked watching it, and he was a really great down-to-earth person and had an iconic career and represented a calm joy of knowledge, and also was very gentlemanly demeanor and seemingly kind soul. He used intelligence playfully and also encouragingly as well. Very well said by Chardol. And also James says, not the news I wanted to wake up to on this Sunday morning. Definitely agree. But again, folks, all the best to Alex Trebek and his family and friends. With that, folks, we will not get out of here on a bad note. We're bringing folks back. What do you folks have wanted to bring back, folks? It is time to get into the night shifts bloopers of the week. With that, folks, we're going in inverse order from 5 to 1 here on our blooper reels today. With that in mind, folks, we'll start off with number 5, which includes our own Isaiah Leung. Number 5 is called Damn It, Damn It, Damn It.
Come on, Hasty! Go! 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 First down! Yes! No flag! Oh, it's gonna be a hold! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!
All right, Isaiah, you are the 5th blooper of the week for us here. What do you got to explain yourself about this?
Well, Callan, that is the joy of victory and the agony of defeat combined into one video. I mean, I was watching the Niners-Packers game, and, I had thought that JaMycal Hasty had ran for a 15-yard gain and a first down, which we desperately needed because our offense was so horrifically bad in that game. We couldn't do anything. So I was like, yeah, that's a first down. And all of a sudden I see that yellow flag, that dreaded yellow flag on the turf. And I'm like, oh, God, that is going to be a hold because like 99% of the time when there's a big run and then there's a flag, that's always a hold. So it sucked, but hey, man, it's the joy of victory and the agony of defeat all in one clip. And I'm happy to make history as the first blooper in our MI6 blooper or the night shift blooper of the week segment.
So Isaiah is at number 5 on this list. We'll go now, folks, to number 4 on the list for our bloopers of the week. Gymnastics gone wrong. Okay, I was not really sure what the whole thing was here, but it looked like they had their hands looked like they were close together on this. Isaiah, what gives with this clip here of gymnastics gone wrong?
I don't know, but I see this all the time, whether it's cheerleading or in gymnastics, where they're trying to throw them up in the air and catch them. But instead, I guess they threw her up, and I guess they forgot to catch her. I think that's what happened on this play. But it's really funny, though.
The amount of times, though, I've heard stories about that happening, though, and with it being super serious. Yikes. By the way, Isaiah, James is asking, who are you waving at in the video? Ha, 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 ha.
Well, I'm not waving. I'm just I got my TV right here, and I'm just go, go, go. It's like a third base coach telling the runner, go, go, go. That's basically what I was doing.
Doing your best Tim Flannery impersonation. And also James says, by the way, guys, I'm going to say it, though, but number 4 looked pretty fake. Honestly, it kind of did, but that's from Fail Army. It's not, that is definitely not our material, sadly. I mean, this is kind of becoming this is like our segment of ridiculousness with Rob Dyrdek on MTV. Also, Chardol says that the blooper was hilarious. Can't stop laughing at it. Is it Isaiah or the gymnastics one? I hope it's the first one more so than the second one.
This is our version of AFV, Callan. America's Funniest
pretty much.
Video.
This is pretty much it. Back to the sports world, folks, for blooper number 3. Georgia's backup quarterback has an errant throw warming up on the sidelines.
Ordoan Mathis. And Mathis warming up. So is Daniels. There's those two.
Yikes. Let's see that one more time real quick.
Ordoan Mathis. And Mathis warming up. So is Daniels. There's those two.
So the backup quarterback, Isaiah, is getting loose, and he doinks the ball boy with his warm-up throws. Yikes.
Callan, this just sums up how bad Georgia's quarterbacks are. You know, DeJuan Mathis is warming up, and he just hits the ball boy. I mean, where are you throwing it at, man? It's the Georgia quarterback situation all in one video.
Yikes. And if that guy's last name is Mathis, then John needs to have a word with him if that's the case. By the way, Tyler says real quick, it looked like Isaiah was giving the Matt Hardy delete motion when you were waving in the play with hasty running. I would agree, though. I mean, I kind of missed the V1 thing, though. V1 and then Jeff Hardy. I kind of missed that stuff. That's how long it's been since I've watched pro wrestling. It's been a while. Also, Chardol clarified it was the gymnastics blooper he was laughing at. And also James says, well, that's why he's the quarterback and the backup nonetheless, too.
He did start yesterday, though, unfortunately.
That is true. With that, folks, to our number 2 blooper of the week, it is NFC East hot potato between the Giants and the unnamed Washington football team. Viewer discretion might be advised here.
Gets it out of the backfield, and he is into Giants territory. Lost the football. Bouncing around. It's still loose. Now the officials will attempt to get to the bottom of the pile. Giants say they have.
As if we needed any more reasons why the NFC East is the worst division in the NFL, it is that fumble recovery by whoever recovered it. But Kenny Albert losing his mind, though, on the Fox telecast was great, Isaiah. But oh my goodness gracious, it is bad out in the NFC East, buddy.
Well, Callan, this is the NFC East in a nutshell. I mean, it's like the ball is rolling around on the field. The division is rolling around on the field, and it's like, who wants it? Who wants it? Who wants it? I guess nobody wants it.
Apparently nobody wants that NFC East division title. And also Tyler says, the sad thing, one of these teams might host a damn playoff game. Oh, goodness gracious. That is going to be terrible. And also, James says that is not AstroTurf. Why is the ball bouncing like that? That's on natural grass. How is the ball bouncing like a Super Bowl or a Super Bowl like 20 yards downfield?
Callan, we just need the Cowboys and the Eagles to be in on that play as well. Then we would have
an enormous dog pile or rugby scrum. With that, folks, sadly, that is not number 1. The number 1 play, the number 1 blooper of the week goes to one of my former quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers, and his broken ankles.
Turning, and he lost the ball. Ravens have it. Down the sideline, Chuck Clark hurdles and still goes.
All right, I need to see that one more time just because.
Turning, and he lost the ball. Ravens have it. Down the sideline, Chuck Clark hurdles and still goes.
Oh man, Phillip! I love Phillip Rivers to death, Isaiah. But man, he got, for one, we know he can't run very well. For one thing, we know he can't block for his life either. Sadly, and thirdly, he got, for one, he fell. And then fourthly, the guy pulls a Tyronn Lue on him and steps over him on his way into the end zone. That, sadly, man, is the number 1 blooper of the week. And it's sadly done by Phillip in a van down by the rivers in Indianapolis.
Callan, I think you should show the audience the play one more time because I don't think they exactly focused on Phillip Rivers. Guys, zone in on number 17. He's the last guy on the play before the Ravens corner runs it back for the touchdown.
Turning, and he lost the ball. Ravens have it. Down the sideline, Chuck Clark hurdles and still goes.
Philip Rivers. This is exactly why Sebastian Janikowski, when the 49ers had a guy returning a kickoff like 100 yards back for the touchdown, he just said, nope, I'm too old for this, and decided he's not going to go chase the guy down and tackle him. Instead, he just walked back down to the sideline and just evaded him and walked back into the sideline. You should have done that, man. You're 38 years old. You're not going to catch Marcus Peters. Don't try to catch him and tackle him, because you're going to end up on the blooper reel like you did today.
So sadly, folks, Philip in a van down by the rivers is the blooper of the week. But, folks, where does he stack up, though, against this other one that didn't make the cut?
Come on, Jimmy, we got to get this first down. Hasty's open. Hasty, oh my God, you take a damn sack. He was wide open. Are you far?
That, Isaiah, becomes the equivalent of the butt fumble being the not top 10 play for like 2 years on ESPN right there.
Yeah, Callan, that moment right there is going to be in MI6 history for a long, long time. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, thank you so much for putting me into infamy, man, like with that play. And you know what's really funny, Callan, is that we've had 2 moments on our show involving me and the 49ers, and both of those moments have involved Jermichael Hasty. So who knows? Maybe we should get Jermichael Hasty to come on our show for an interview. It would be so perfect.
Who knows? Who knows? That is our bloopers of the week right there, as mentioned, folks, at this point in time. With that, some final thoughts before we actually get to final thoughts here from Casey King. Casey says his final thoughts. First off, another great show on the night shift, and looking forward to a great sports weekend next weekend with not only college football and the Rams versus Seahawks, but also we got the Masters, which shall be good. It'll be interesting since it's being held in November for the first time, and also cannot wait to be back here again with you guys next weekends to give my thoughts on the program. Have a great week, guys, and all the best to you, Casey, as the week chugs along here. Tyler Work writes in to say a sad thing, as mentioned, with the NFC fumble between Washington and the Giants, that they might actually host a playoff game. Also, James, about Philip Rivers, he's been in that position many times, trying to hunt down someone after a pick or a fumble. And also, he says that he tripped on his own feet. But still, Marcus Peters pulled the AI and stepped over like he was Tyronn Lue. That's what makes it even worse. And also, Tyler Work says,
disrespect.
The disrespect. Definitely did not look like the form tackling drills from my playing days, what Tyler says about the tackle. And then James, are you far? In regards to Isaiah in his remarks at the end of that video. But now, folks, we'll shift gears and wrap things up and get started for the start on the next week with tonight's final thoughts. All right, folks, time to wrap up the program here on this Sunday, November 8th. Isaiah, over to you. What do you got for us for final thoughts for tonight's show?
Well, before I get into my final thoughts, Callan, I just want to thank James Gonzalez, Tyler Work, Casey King, Shardo Gupta, Stephen Wang, Ronald James Davis, as well as Ted Vicky. Who else? And I think that's it. But I want to thank all of our viewers once again for tuning into tonight's show and giving us so much love and support. We really, really appreciate you guys. I mean, you guys are truly the best fans on the planet. We could not have asked for any better fans. You guys are just so awesome. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for another episode of Wild Sports Talk with myself, Callan, and John Mathis. It's going to be a great, great program tomorrow. And also, ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week, Sunday, for another edition of Blooper of the Week. We're going to have the Bloopers of the Week segment every Sunday on the night shift. And also, give us any ideas that you guys have for potential new names for the blooper of the week segment, because right now it's called blooper of the week, but me and Callan both want to make it a different name, a better name than blooper of the week. Blooper of the week just seems kind of too bland for our liking. So comment down below or comment in another post that Callan will have up about potential name changes for the blooper of the week segment. Also, feel free to send us like ideas or videos of different bloopers that you guys saw that you guys want us to add to our blooper of the week segment. We will gladly do that. But my final thoughts is, everybody, right now, winter weather has arrived. It's cold all over the place. Stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay warm, ladies and gentlemen.
And with that, folks, some more final thoughts trickling in. James agrees. Thank you guys for the entertainment as always. Tyler Work with good show, gents. And Casey says, how about we call it the Higgins blooper of the week? You probably could. I mean, who knows? I mean,
add it to the stash of ideas, Callan.
I mean, at this rate, we're going to be calling it the Isaiah H. Leung Memorial Trophy because of how things is going. James, I'm not sure about this one, but how about Isaiah-ing a fool?
Add that to the stash as well.
Because that's probably going to end up being like how we're going to be graded on is, you know, how out of control is the blooper of the week against this thing again right here.
Come on, Jimmy, we got to get this first down. Hasty's open! Hasty, oh my God, you take a damn sack. It was wide open. Are you far?
We also, Isaiah can add Chris Wilson's thoughts from the night shift on Saturday of Whoops. There it is. In regards to the tag team song of Whoop, there it is. How about Whoops? There it is, being a part of that as well. But again, folks, as already mentioned, but again, we thank you all again so much for your viewership again today. And also, folks, again, keep smashing the podcast link. Again, folks, find us on Anchor or via your podcast app. We're getting ever so closer, folks, to 2,000 listens on Anchor. Again, we already surpassed 1,500 earlier this month. And again, we're trying our best to get to 2,000 before the end of the year, but also, I believe, before we actually hit the Thanksgiving holiday, which, by the way, folks, a quick note about that for just your information as now. We'll have more about this next week, though. But, folks, as of a couple of discussions from us behind the scenes, though, the week of Thanksgiving, so in 2 weeks' time, we will be off the air, folks. The entire week of programming, as mentioned, with Trevor going home for the holiday, as is Shri, or, most of the guys, though, that are, in fact, not home right now are going back home for their for the vacation break. And also, folks, that we will again we'll have more about that as mentioned. But again, folks, as of now, do not look for any programming from us the week of Thanksgiving, as mentioned, with just guys going back home and giving us a chance to take a breather and again give ourselves a chance to recoup and recharge and come back with you folks the week after Thanksgiving. And also, Isaiah, a pretty cool show coming up as well 10 days from now. What do you got for us?
Well, I want to add on to Callan's point as well. We're still in preliminary discussions about it, but we may have a special Thanksgiving episode, just like we did for Halloween, where we're not going to have it on Thanksgiving Day. We're not going to have it like that week, but we're probably going to have it that Saturday before Thanksgiving week, where the entire cast and crew of the MI6 Sports Network, me, Callan, John Mathis, Furman Lee, Trevor Williams, Ryan Schreiner, Shri Anand, Martin Garcia, Stephen Wang. We all come together and we all like just talk sports. It will be like a special Thanksgiving show that we're gonna have. We're thinking about doing that, but so make sure you guys keep on the lookout for that. But ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce that on November 18th, Wednesday night at 5 p.m. here on the West Coast, we are not going to have Wild Sports Talk because we are going to have a special NBA Draft Live show where me, Callan, John, Steven, and the rest of the gang are going to sit down at the table and we are going to react to every NBA draft pick that comes in the first round of the draft. We're going to hopefully react to maybe LaMelo Ball going to Golden State and also like James Wiseman, Obi Toppin, and others as they get drafted, and we will break it down and analyze what that means to that team. And also we're going to break down and analyze potential big trades that is going to go down during the draft. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. Wednesday, November 18th, Callan, I believe we're going to start this show at either 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., depending on when the NBA draft starts, right?
That is correct. But again, folks, we'll have more about that as we get closer. Again, we do have to run some things by Shareable Steve. Again, he's the executive producer of programming here. We'll have more about that, folks. Again, to find out more about our upcoming schedules, folks, we encourage you to, again, follow us on social media. Again, find us, with, as mentioned, we always have our information scrolling across the screen. But again, folks, search the MI6 Sports Network via your favorite social platforms. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're getting a little bit better at using Instagram. And also, of course, subscribe to us, folks, on your podcast app too via Anchor, and also on Apple Podcast. And Isaiah's saying Turkey. Why?
If we have that Thanksgiving show, I really hope you guys all tune in, because I had that buffet for Halloween, like the Halloween Spectacular, where I'm going to bring a turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, and a pumpkin pie for that Thanksgiving show. You're going to actually see me eat turkey on the show. It's going to be amazing. Callan's already saying no.
Why must it always be about food? James has a very good idea, Isaiah. The show for Thanksgiving should be about what you guys are thankful for in the world of sports. I agree. We'll have more about that as mentioned, folks. But again, follow us, folks, as mentioned, on your favorite social platforms. Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and also, of course, via Instagram as well. Again, we'll have more updates about the upcoming schedule as we get closer to the NBA draft as well. Angel Berrigan Jr. writes in to say, save him the stuffing, and Casey will bring the fine wine. Let's do this.
Someone needs to bring the prime rib, too.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. I'll bring some ham. How about that?
Mac and cheese, too. That would be great.
Turkey and ham sandwiches, the leftovers for lunch the next day. And also, Angel agrees that I like James's idea with everything that has gone on in 2020. I definitely agree about what we've been thankful for, despite the pandemic and, again, what's gone on this year, of course. But again, folks, with that in mind, for the entire cast and crew here of the MI6 Sports Network, and for our fellow co-host, Isaiah Leung, yours truly, Callan McClurg, saying goodnight here from San Diego. We'll see you folks back here, as mentioned, Monday to kick off a new week here with myself, Isaiah, and John Mathis at 7:30 p.m. local time here to kick off a new week of coverage here, folks, with WST on Monday and Wednesday. Of course, we're back on the night shift on Tuesday night, again at 10 o'clock Pacific time, and plenty of more coverage, folks, throughout the course of the week back here on the 6th. Until next time, folks, have a good rest of your night. Take care. Please stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you folks back here, as mentioned, on Monday, and, of course, back on Tuesday with the night shift at 10 p.m. back here on the MI6 Sports Network. Until next time, folks, good night. Bye-bye.